This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
What are you looking for? A place to belong? A path to a career? A way to make things better? Do you wonder what opportunity looks like? Explore your answers here. Change your world at Tennessee Tech University. Visit tntech.edu/change.
Hello, I am State Representative Ryan Williams. I'm the State Representative for the House District 42, which is a part of Tennessee Tech University. We'd like to thank Dr. Oldham today and his leadership for presenting and hosting today this forum. We'd like to thank all those in the audience as well as today, and particularly we'd like to thank WCTE TV for their leadership and their distribution and production of this forum today so that we could better inform those across the state about the changes regarding the Governor's Focus Forum. The format today will be a question and answer town hall type period, but before we get started, would like to take an opportunity to give a brief overview of the Focus Act for those who may or may not know about the Focus Act. The Focus on College and University Success Act in the Governor's administrative policy is the next step in making Tennessee, making sure it reaches its goal of 55% of Tennesseans having a post-secondary degree or credential by 2025. The Focus Act will better align our post-secondary education system by providing a sharpened focus on the governance of our community colleges and colleges of applied technology while granting our four-year state institutions additional autonomy as we seek to empower each institution to be successful in this new environment. The key components of the Focus Act are thus: a sharpened focus by TBR on the state's 13 community colleges and 27 TCATs, the creation of local state university boards responsible for the operations, management, and control of the state's six four-year institutions. It will also provide an enhanced role of THEC, which is the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, to provide greater coordination, access across the state, to include capital project management, institutional mission approval, and higher education finance. Creation of a transition task force consisting of higher education business and community leaders from across the state will serve the administration and advisory body throughout the transition to this next phase. Of these new community boards that are created for these six institutions, each local board will be made up of 10 members, 9 voting members, and 1 non-voting member. 8 members will be appointed by the governor and confirmed by the House and Senate. 1 member will be a faculty member selected by faculty, and 1 member will be student member selected by the board. Of the voting members, 6 members must be residents of the state of Tennessee, and 3 members must be alum. Initial terms of members appointed by the governor shall be staggered, and as the initial board members expire, successors will serve 6-year terms and will be eligible to serve 2 consecutive terms. It was my honor to carry this bill because I felt like it was very important for, in particular, Tennessee Tech and these other institutions, because of the increase in enrollment, because of the Tennessee Promise. This would allow them to have further autonomy in the operations of their institutions. That way, these 1- and 2-year institutions, which will still be under TBR, will have the opportunity to manage their business, which was different than a 4-year institution. I believe this new autonomy will create a greater sense of community for these 6 institutions across our state and be an opportunity for them to springboard into the next phase of their respective institutions. Dr. Nolan, I'll let you take this question. Why couldn't local board members be added under the established Tennessee Board of Regents umbrella?
There was nothing that would have precluded the institutional boards from coming under the umbrella of the Board of Regents, but by creating independent institutional boards, it provides the opportunity for mission flexibility and mission congruence. The Board of Regents is a large system. It's a system that has served the state extremely well, and a system that's been recognized for excellence. But as you create opportunities for institutions to respond at the speed of business to the needs of business, as you create opportunities for institutions to double down on their historic missions, the flexibility that comes from independence cannot be understated, and the importance of that flexibility cannot be understated.
Dr. Oldham, I'll let you take the next question. What will be the budget for each of the 6 boards, in particular your board, I guess, and the support functions that they are expected to provide? Will there be any corresponding decrease in the TBR budget?
Yeah, another good question. Obviously, it's operational in nature, and a lot of these things we're still kind of sorting through. In our case, we anticipate a fairly substantial savings in current chargebacks that we're already paying to the TBR system. I think most of our universities are somewhere in the $1 million range of fees and chargebacks that we're paying to the system that we anticipate recovering at some point in time. And those funds would then be made available, obviously, to support local board functions.
Dr. White, the next question is, how will the fiscal oversight role of TBR be replaced?
The fiscal oversight role of TBR is really just moving to another board. And so some folks have also asked me about accountability and things that we're expected to operate, those rules of operation that we have now. Really, the main thing that's changing is that we are replacing most of the functions of one board to be handled by 6 institutional boards, and there will still be oversight. An additional role of TBR will be to approve and oversee our general fiscal health, and that's to satisfy the bondholders that we are engaged in now as part of the TBR system. So we won't really have less oversight over our fiscal matters. We will have additional oversight going forward.
Point. One of the elements that I think is critical to the Focus Act is the central role that the Tennessee Higher Education Commission will play in coordinating the activities of all post-secondary education in the state. THEC has been the vision entity for higher education for the better part of 4 decades. They're the entity that has led everything from the original performance funding initiatives to the state's current performance funding outcomes formula, to Gear Up programs, to the lottery scholarship, et cetera. So that central role of THEC to convene institutions and to hold institutions accountable remains unchanged.
Next question. Do you think one voting faculty member on each board constitutes sufficient faculty representation? Dr. Owen?
Well, I guess at first blush, I'd say it's 6 times more representation than they have currently. So it's certainly an improvement. I guess we could all debate on how much is enough and what the right number is, but I think ultimately the role of faculty input and representation in this structure is very important. It's very critical, and I think all of us, university leaders, as well as the governor himself, feels very strongly about that. And so that's a very important part of this legislation to make sure that faculty do have an appropriate seat at the table.
Mr. Krause?
Representative, the transition task force that was mentioned briefly and then Dr. Oldham just referenced, we still have some work to do. There's a faculty member that sits on that task force, which we think is crucial. And I'd also just like to say central throughout all of this is both the belief and the appreciation of the role of faculty in our institutions as members of the shared governance team, but also just as the people that have contact with students every day and the ones that do research that drives Tennessee's economy. And so I just wanted to make sure that all the faculty members who may be watching or maybe here are aware there's a defined role in the task force moving forward, but of course, always welcome comments from faculty members through their institutions or directly to us, and are just very appreciative of all of our faculty throughout the state.
Thank you. Next question. What will the change with the TBR do to transferring credits, or terminology be transfer pathways, between the four-year schools?
The legislation is very direct in that there will be no impact on existing transfer statutes. And I want to step past statute and step past policy and talk about the changing landscape in the state of Tennessee. With the advent of Tennessee Promise, it's critical for the health of all of our institutions that we facilitate transfer of students from institution X to institution Y. That's not only from students moving from community colleges to universities, but I think you'll see increased partnerships among institutions from an academic perspective that will allow successful transfer from East Tennessee State University to Tennessee Tech. In fact, President Oldham and his faculty and our faculty are developing joint degrees in a number of areas that will facilitate the shared use of resources driving towards the Drive to 55 objectives.
If I could add to that as well, along with the partnerships, and we do that because it serves our students well and it's in our own best interest to do that. I have a unique perspective, having been part of this conversation about Tennessee achievement in student success in both existing systems, both the University of Tennessee system and the Tennessee Board of Regents system. And I can assure you that conversation and that commitment transcends any given structure, okay? The importance of being able to serve students effectively is important, and everybody in higher education feels it and knows it's in their institution's best interest to make that happen. And so I have no doubt that will continue.
Okay. All right, next question. Will the Focus Act help adult learners, especially university staff, special FSO programs? Is that correct? Will it? Mr. Krause?
A couple things. One, adult learners are a key and essential part of the Drive to 55. I'm unfamiliar with the special FSO program, so certainly if one of the presidents has insight on that, share it, please. We've just concluded a statewide campaign known as Tennessee Reconnect. We found some interesting things working through that initiative. There are 105,000 Tennesseans who are halfway complete to their degree but have not yet graduated. And maybe most shockingly, there are 25,000 who are within one semester and just need to come back. And all of the universities here were represented very well during that campaign. What I see the Focus Act doing for our adult learner initiatives is one of the common themes you've heard today. And that's about helping universities be tied more to their local communities and be able to adapt more quickly. Adult learners don't need to enter the same campus necessarily that 18-year-olds are entering. There needs to be somewhat different structures and entryways. A lot of our universities are very far underway on those efforts, but I suspect the Focus Act will only continue to encourage them.
I want to follow up on a point related to our faculty and staff and employee benefits. If you think to the mission of an institution, the mission of our institution is to expand the bounds of knowledge for our students, our faculty, staff, and our communities as a whole. That then is narrowed from an employment perspective to many benefits that we provide in terms of tuition discounts, continuing professional development, and I know on many of our campuses, ours in particular, we provide opportunities for employees to take time away from their jobs to attend class. Every year, I have the great honor of being part of GED completion ceremonies on our campus where we have staff members who have gone back, completed their GED, and then have transitioned from that into our institution and are pursuing baccalaureate degrees. So part of our mission since our inception 105 years ago has been to improve the quality of life for the people of our region, the most important people of our region, of our faculty, staff, and our students.
Next question. Interesting question. I'm not sure that we can answer it, but we'll try to answer it together. It's actually a twofold question. Is why does TSU think the Focus Act is bad, first of all, and why did the forum today not include someone prepared or postured to look at the Focus Act critically? For instance, maybe Chancellor Morgan.
Certainly, and I will not at all presume to speak for Tennessee State University or their leadership, but both Representative Williams and I were involved with an ongoing dialogue with TSU's leadership about their concerns on the Focus Act. I will just say this, The dialogue I found their perspective incredibly helpful. We tried throughout the process to adapt the bill and amend the bill, which we did, in fact, to meet specific requests by Tennessee State University. I think the Focus Act has a unique benefit to every institution, including Tennessee State University. Regarding the inclusion of someone on this forum who maybe had a more critical view of the Focus Act, I will say one thing the Focus Act has not lacked is public attention. There has been a very public discussion about the Focus Act that occurred, one, through our gears of government that Representative Williams and actually every president here at one time or another had a position in a discussion with the legislature about the bill. I think that what I consistently heard from critics of the legislation were fears about what would happen or about what could happen with this structure. And when we heard those concerns that I think had merit, we adapted the legislation to make sure that we address those concerns. The structure that we have arrived at is one that I feel comfortable saying had broad input from presidents and communities. And certainly those who are critical of the legislation understand we have a policy disagreement with them. But I believe this. I believe in 5 to 10 years, these universities will look back and say, wow, that really was a turning point where our institution went to a different level. And of course, for Drive to 55's concerns, I think our community colleges will also look back and say, wow, the day we got a board that wasn't focused on 200,000 students anymore, but then became just focused on our community and technical college students was a turning point for us also.
Dr. White?
I can't speak to each person who would be critical of one or more points of the bill, but I did want to say what Chancellor Morgan's perspective did for me. I have great respect for him, but when I read Chancellor Morgan's comments, I took them very seriously and took that as a message of things that we could do wrong if we didn't pay attention to what was happening for the future. And so what I thought he did that was really positive for us was say, hey, here's a hole over here. Don't fall in that hole. Make sure that this doesn't happen. This could be a negative consequence. So what are you doing to make sure that that doesn't happen? And I took that very seriously, and we just tried to address all of the things that could be potential negatives. And I'm really satisfied that what we've ended up with is something that's beneficial for Austin Peay, beneficial for our sister institutions, and for students in Tennessee. But I valued all of the input on the bill.
Next question. How will the Focus Act affect already meager state appropriations? Will the Focus Act increase competition between institutions in the environment that is already hostile to higher education?
I don't know if I would describe the environment as hostile to education. I think we are fortunate in that we all live in a state where our elected officials, and particularly the governor, understand the importance of post-secondary education. Governor Haslam has made post-secondary education central to his legacy, and the Drive to 55 reforms not only raise the bar for the current generation of university leaders, but future generations of university leaders. As I have the chance to travel across the country and meet with peers, everyone asks what's happening in Tennessee, because we are viewed from a policy perspective as a best practice state. We're an innovator. Folks are paying close attention to the things that are occurring across our 95 counties. The landscape is competitive. It has been and it will continue to be. What Focus encourages us to do is to be more innovative, more entrepreneurial, and more flexible.
Thank you, Dr. Nolan. Dr. White?
And I would add that we are still governed by THEC. And so our formula now is established by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. We'll continue to work through them, and they will have oversight over both the UT system schools and the independent units. And so I don't see that anything would change there.
Next question is regarding tuition. Everybody likes to discuss tuition. How will tuition be affected by the Focus Act?
I'll jump back in since I just talked about THEC. So right now, tuition is impacted, or tuition is set by TBR institutions after being recommended a range from THEC. And so under the Focus Act, the range that's recommended by THEC will be binding. And so now we have the ability to request through TBR an ability to go outside the range, but with the Focus Act, we will be bound and actually more limited in what we can request through THEC.
Dr. Nolan?
Follow up on a prior point, and it strikes to the changing dynamics of state funding and support for higher education. You know, if we were holding this forum on this campus in 1986, about 70 cents on the dollar of what it would take to run the operations of this institution would have come from the state. Now that figure is 70 cents on the dollar of what it takes to run Tennessee Tech, Austin Peay, TSU comes from students. And that trend has really struck to the core of the challenge that we all face, and that's how do we demonstrate to the community as a whole the importance of investments in post-secondary education. We're a public good. Enhanced educational attainment levels lead to higher quality of lives for the people of our region and the people of the state of Tennessee as a whole. So as we examine a post-focus dynamic, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to continue to remind our communities and Tennesseans of the importance of investing in post-secondary education.
Mr. Krause, I'm going to ask you the next question. How often will the board members change?
So in the initial iteration, we've staggered, and Representative Williams mentioned this at first, our first focus boards, which will be comprised of 8 appointed members by the governor, 1 faculty member appointed in a manner determined by the faculty senate on each campus, and then a student member. Those boards will all be appointed to staggered terms in the initial iteration. So you'll have a group of members that serve 3 years, 4 years, and 6 years. That ensures that those boards don't wholesale roll off 6 years from that date. Once we enter really the steady state, after that first iteration of appointments, board members would serve 6-year terms.
Thank you. Pretty straightforward answer there. We'll go on to the next answer. Without oversight from a governing body such as TBR, how can we ensure that institutions like ETSU and TTU, since your name was called, which have historically had low percentage in terms of ethnic diversity, will improve in the area of ethnic diversity?
That's a very good question, and you know, I think this comes into play on exactly where the institutions are located as well. Unfortunately, Tennessee Tech does not benefit from being located in a part of the state that is terribly ethnically diverse. And so we have to work a little bit harder than some of the other institutions, I think, to achieve that. I think we make some pretty significant strides. But, you know, again, I think it's an internal commitment to it that makes it happen, not being forced by an exterior board. But having a board that is focused on Tennessee Tech will certainly make sure that those priorities are not only discussed frequently, but there are you know, strategic actions being implemented to achieve them, and it's ultimate accountability, actually, I think.
Next question. In an effort to not have unequal distribution of support and influence, how will the access to qualified board candidates be distributed unbiasedly to all of the universities affected? This is a graduate student from here at Tech.
I think that's a question that we heard a lot during the legislation, which was who's going to serve on these boards. I thought that the composition that Representative Williams laid out is important to focus on. We think there's some real opportunities here. Not every board member has to live in Tennessee, for instance, which will be great news for the astronauts who graduated from Tennessee Tech but maybe don't live here, and many of the other noted alumni who just haven't happened to have residence in Tennessee. We expect those appointments, and I think anyone that's ever been familiar with the governor's appointment process, that's a collaborative process. That's a dialogue with legislators. It's certainly a dialogue with presidents in the community. I think that's exactly what you're going to see moving forward with the Focus Act. These appointments are important. They are central, we think, to each of the universities' next 10 years, and I can just assure you they'll be taken incredibly serious. In regards to qualified applicants, though, if you look, let's talk a little bit about Tennessee Tech again, a region I'm very familiar with. There are no shortage of very dedicated people in this area, out of state and across the country, that love Tennessee Tech and want to support Tennessee Tech. So I have no worries about being able to find qualified applicants who, I think one of the changes we're going to see is in the past, with the Tennessee Board of Regents, which has served us very well. But those board members, they weren't ever able to hone in on just one institution. We're now going to provide that capability. And every morning, I think the presidents wake up now, and they have 8 allies who are thinking just as much as they were about their board. They have a faculty member who's on the board thinking about it, and a student member as well. I think that's a new capability.
Well, with that being said, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Tennessee Tech and Dr. Oldham for hosting this event, the Focus Forum today, the opportunity to moderate it. As a legislator, it's very difficult for me to moderate, but I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And thank you to WCTE for hosting it. We look forward to participating in future dialogues here and at your campuses as well. Thank you also to the audience for being here, and have a good day.
What are you looking for? A place to belong? A path to a career? A way to make things better? Do you wonder what opportunity looks like? Explore your answers here. Change your world at Tennessee Tech University. Visit tntech.edu/change.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.